friends, but it's really tough out there. You don't want necessarily bring all the stuff home every night to your spouse or friends. So you got to find somebody in the world who's going to help give you straight information, who's going to tell you things that maybe you don't like to hear, going to say that you made a big mistake, do that. So I have that person. In fact, Kimberly's sitting over here. Kimberly is my muse. Kimberly's been through me through about 3 startups. She was one of the people who wasn't intimidated by me, came to me and told me the things I was doing wrong. Kimberly was actually going into the coaching business, and she's very good at it, by the way, if anybody needs coaching. And actually, Kimberly was a person, my muse. So she was a person that would come to me within the midst of all this stuff and give me information on what to do. The next money raise, the other thing I did was Lehman Brothers came to me and said, you need a COO. We have a person we think is great for you. And that person, if you take that person, we are sure to give you $3 more million. Big mistake. I took that person, they didn't fit my culture, they didn't fit who I was, they didn't fit my team, they didn't fit in, and I never got the money anyway, and eventually ended up firing her. But it's like, I traded off again the right thing for the money. And that's the other part. It's really hard, and I tell you, that's a really hard place to be in this whole environment, because you never know. Then Lehman Brothers came to me and said, okay, you need new management. You need to bring in an experienced Wall Street team. You need everything, and that's where that was another mistake that I got caught up in. Understand your relationship, and what I said earlier about that you got to find people that support your idea, people that support the understanding of being an entrepreneur, and you got to understand the relationship. It's not something you can take just, oh, I need this engineer, I'm going to hire him off this resume. You got to really make sure that there's a fit, because at the early stages of a startup company, that is critical. The early stage of a startup company, one of the most important assets you have is people and people working together. It's walking in. The great thing I loved about Apple in the early days of Apple, whoever got there first made the coffee. It was like whoever walked in and did it, nobody cared about who was what. In fact, at one time at Apple, because I was the architect also for the Apple culture, because the one thing I was concerned about at Apple when I first started there was, how do we work together? What I did is I created what's called the Apple culture. And so that was the whole thing about how we operated together, how we communicated together, how we did. The other thing we did at Apple, by the way, is when you started as an employee, you took a test. A month after you started, you took a test on the Apple II. If you failed the test, you were terminated. And that was like, we said, we want people here who know what our product is, know what it does. Here it is. We gave every employee one as they walked in the door, but 30 days later, you take a test. Does anybody know who failed the test? The only person who ever failed the test? John Scully. Wow. Maybe it's because I graded it. Maybe that. Okay. The other thing you have to know is that there's a ruination factor. There's a part that all of a sudden, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, can you survive? And that's the other part you have to be very careful. And you can pump up all these, you live off your credit card and everything, but there has to be a point in time that you have to sort of think about, where am I going to go with this, and is this going to put me my life out of whack? Because you have to have a balance between what your life is and what I call the ruination factor. And that's something I've always sort of dealt with. A lot of times I've gone past it. I have a very wealthy ex-wife. Although I got ruined, she didn't. So anyway, so you never know about your ruination factor. The other thing is the company then, Migo, went into a new market strategy. And their strategy, by the way, wasn't this product. Their strategy was to acquire other companies. And so they went out in an acquisition. This, again, is a Wall Street thing. The acquisition got other companies. Their big thing was to bring the stock value up. And basically, at that point in time was where I made a huge mistake. I should have left. So that's the other part. There's a point in time as an entrepreneur, as a founder of a company, when it's a moment in time, for whatever reason, you need to leave, you need to leave. And that's why I made a big mistake, because it was my baby. I want to make sure, but all of the things, the direction going on in the company, I didn't agree with. There was a lot of conflict. I should have, the time that Lehman came in instead of bringing in new management, I should have left the company at that time. Big mistake I made. I should have gone off to my next idea. And that's another thing about being an entrepreneur. There's a point in time where it's probably better that if new management comes in, new strategy comes in, that you go off and do the next thing. And I believe if you're successful as an entrepreneur, you go off, it'll be another idea. I mean, since leaving Migo, I've come up with a couple of ideas, and one I'm pursuing now. you're going to find other ideas because you can apply these same principles to the new markets and new products and new things coming out, and again, fit what you do. So basically, the other part is about the legal system. Again, don't be fearful of it. Find the right people to help you with it, but don't underestimate the time and toil it takes to deal with it. The other thing that happened to me when I left Apple, Mr. Scully decided not to give me my stock options, so I filed a lawsuit. It took me 4.5 years to get the lawsuit settled, which I won. Now the good news for me was, when I started the lawsuit, stock was at $12. When I finished the lawsuit, stock was at 48. Wow. So it turned out to be a few shares of stock turned out to be an interesting value opportunity for me. So you never know. But again, 4.5 years out of my life was hell. And so one thing I would say avoid is when you get involved in these situations, basically don't get involved in lawsuits. Unless it's really necessary. Let me just sort of summarize where I'm at, and again, I would take questions about it. To be an entrepreneur, you have to really first of all assess what you want to do. It's not about just all of a sudden finding a product you're going to become a millionaire with. You have to assess why are you doing it, why are you there for, what do you want out of it, how is it going to enhance you, and what can you bring to the party, and can you attract other people to help you? That's the other part of it.